Assalamu alaikum. Slide number 2. Probability, imkan, chance. Actually, in our everyday life, we come across two types of experiments. One we call deterministic experiments and the other non-deterministic experiments. Deterministic experiments are those in which we know the outcome. Either the outcome is known to us, or if we repeat the experiment under the homogeneous or similar conditions, then the result or the outcome remains unique. It is here, that's why they are termed as predictable experiment. That is, you can predict. For example, if in a box, in a container, you have some gas, if you increase the temperature and keeping the volume constant same, then the pressure will also increase with the increase in temperature. If you know the behavior of the gas, then you can predict that at a certain temperature what will be the pressure. Or if you don't know, then if you are measuring the pressure and if you repeat the experiment, you will find that at a certain temperature the pressure will be a certain value which you can predict. These are the one type of experiments. The other type of experiments are non-deterministic experiments. These are the experiments in which the result is not unique. You are not certain what will be the outcome. For example, if you throw a dice, you are playing Ludo, if you throw a dice, you don't know whether you will get 1 or 2 or 3 or 5 or 6. If you toss a coin, you are not sure whether you will get head or tail. The outcome will be random. That's why these experiments, that is non-deterministic experiments, are also known as random experiments. Actually, probability theory is the study of random experiments. So in this presentation, we are going to discuss in detail the probability theory, how to calculate the probability, how to quantify the imkan or the chance of an event. This we shall be doing it. I would like you to be attentive. You are going to get questions from this topic as MCQ as well as the problem solving. And the topics are actually in continuation. There is a chain. If you miss to understand the initial thing, then it will be difficult for you to follow the following topics. Slide number 3. Actually, most aspects of life can be shown to involve some probabilities, some imkan, some chances. And medicine is also like that. Here also we are not certain about the outcome. For example, you will be interested in knowing what is the probability of a heart transplant patient living for minimum 5 years. You are not sure, but you can assign some quantity which we call the imkan or chance or probability of your event in which you are interested. What is the probability that a patient with pain in his stomach has an ulcer? Sometimes doctor is not 100% confident. So he is having some imkan of that one, and that imkan, if it is say 90% or more than that, then he prescribes the medicine accordingly. What is the probability that a patient will respond to a particular treatment? Look, all patients, because of some other internal things, they don't respond to all the treatments. So if the doctor is using some treatment, he is not sure, but he can assess it, or he can calculate the probability that the treatment will be effective on the patient. Actually, we shall be doing the statistical analysis for our given data. We don't get the definite answers, and so that we should indicate, or at least we should know, a degree of uncertainty in our answers. We should know when doctor is saying that the patient is likely to survive 5 years, then he should be knowing that what is the imkan that the patient is likely to survive up to 5 years after a transplant or after a major process. Slide number 4. Before starting the probability topic, let us refresh the set theory. Most of you are aware about this one. You must have been taught at a school level the set theory. A set is a well-defined collection of objects. For example, when you say a tea set, you know that a tea set means 6 saucers, 6 cups, 1 teapot, 1 sugar pot, 1 milk pot, like that. But we are here going to discuss the numeric values. So we are having a universal set, means all other sets will be the subsets of this set. So I am taking an example here to explain different things here. That suppose your universal set is numbers from 1 to 10, and 3 more sets have been defined which are the part of this one, A, B and C. You know it. Now we shall be discussing what does A complement means. A complement means in this set the events will be those which are not in A but in U. See the top figure here. If A is the given there, the circle, then A complement is the remaining part of the universal set which is not in A, and therefore here your A is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and U is 1, 2, 3 up to 10, and therefore A complement will be equal to 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. What is A union B? You know it. A union B means either in A or in B or in both. To see the figure number 2, the shaded portion is A union B. That is, either the event is in A or in B or in both. So you from the given sets A and B, up to 5 is A and 6, 7 is given in B, 4, 5 are common, and it will be your 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. A intersection B means what is common in the two sets A and B. See the figure number 3. Here the common portion between A and B, the A intersection B, and here if you see in your sets the common is 4 and 5, and therefore your A intersection B is 4, 5. A intersection B complement. It will include the events which are in A but not in B. If you see the fourth figure here, the shaded green portion is the A intersection B complement, means those events of A which are not the events of B. So here 1, 2, 3 of A are not in B, and therefore this set will be equal to, this is your A intersection B complement, and it 1, 2, 3 is the A intersection B complement. A intersection C. For this, for in the given situation, there is nothing common in A and C. A is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. C is 6, 7, 8. There is nothing common. If you see the figure number 6, which is given here, this, and they are disjoint, and therefore their intersection is a null set phi, nil. Okay, we shall be using the set theory in our probability problems. That's why I just refreshed. You are knowing it before starting the probability topic. Slide number 5. First, we will discuss the terminology which we shall be using in this presentation, in this lecture. There are trial and events, sample space, exhaustive event, favorable events, mutually exclusive events, equally likely events, and independent events. Among these, we shall be discussing all them and try to understand the word meaning, the literal meaning, and when we shall be discussing them in detail separately, then you will follow them from their name. These two are important and are used in computing the probability for the event in which you are interested. That is, if you want to get the probability of a particular event, you need to know the exhaustive event and favorable events. So this now we shall be discussing them separately in the following slide. Slide number 6. Trial and event. Actually, the experiment which you are performing is termed as trial, and the outcome which you are getting after the experiment is known as event. For example, if you are tossing a dice, then it is termed as a trial, and the outcomes of this trial are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. These are the events. That is, experiment is termed as trial and the outcomes are known as event. Event does not mean you may be interested in certain event which may include more than one outcomes. For example, suppose you are interested in getting an even number. Even number means 2, 4 or 6. So this is also known as an event, one event, because you are interested in this event and which corresponds to 3 outcomes of the trial. It is also an event. Sample space, set of all possible outcomes of an experiment. It is noted by capital S. For example, if you are tossing one coin, either you will get head or you will get tail, and therefore your S equal to head, you will show it as a set, head, comma, either head or tail. If you are throwing a dice, then your sample space is, you simply write it as a set. The possible outcomes are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is your sample space for your this experiment or this trial, that is throwing a dice. If you are throwing 2 coins, let me make one thing clear. Throwing 2 coins or saying that one coin is thrown or tossed 2 times, both are same things. So either it is written tossing 2 coins or one coin is tossed 2 times, both are same things. So here the outcome of the first coin or the first trial is given the first one, so either you will get head on both, or head on the first, tail on the second, or tail on the first, head on the second, or tail on both the coins or both the trials. If you have your trial or experiment is tossing 3 coins, then the sample size is the set of all possible outcomes. All possible outcomes are, these are 8, either all 3 heads and so on, and or all 3 tails. So sample space is the set of all possible outcomes of your experiment. Slide number 7. Exhaustive events. Exhaustive means the total possible outcomes in an experiment is known as exhaustive events. Sample space we discussed in the last slide. If you count the number of events in the sample space, that is the exhaustive events. For example, if you are tossing 1 coin, the exhaustive events are, this is the sample space, are 2. If you are tossing 2 coins, sample space you know, we just discussed there, the exhaustive events are 4. If you are tossing 3 coins, sample space we have seen there, and it includes 8 events. These are the exhaustive events. Look, for computing probability, you must know the exhaustive events of your experiment. otherwise you cannot compute the probability. In tossing 4 coins, it will be difficult to create the sample space, but exhaustive events you can calculate. Now you see here, look the trend here. One coin gives 2 outcomes, that is exhaustive events are 2. When there are 2 coins, for one, that is 2 are for one coin there are 2 outcomes, and you just put 2, the outcome of one coin, and in the power put the number of coins. For 2 coins you will get 2 raised to power 2, that is 4. For 3 coins, because one coin gives you 2 outcome, the number of coins will be put as a power 2 cube. Similarly you will get for 4 coins 16, for 6 coins 2 raised to power 6, that is 64. In tossing a dice, the number of possible outcomes are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, that is exhaustive events are 6 in this case. And in tossing 2 dice, how many exhaustive events will be there? 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 3 up to 1, 6. That we will discuss in the numerical problems. You simply put the number of dice as a power, so it will be 6 square, that is 36. So now you can get the exhaustive events if you know that if you are tossing a coin, then the number of coins will be put on the as a power to get the number of exhaustive events of that experiment. Okay, so we finished the events and the trial and events and exhaustive events. Slide number 8. Favorable events. Actually this favorable is in relation to your interest, in which event you are interested and how many possibilities are favorable to your event. That is number of cases in the sample space favorable to the happening of the event in which you are interested. We will take some examples. Suppose you are throwing 1 dice and you are interested in getting an even number. Okay, the sample space for 1 dice you know is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and your event of interest is even number. Count the even numbers here in the sample space, either 2 or 4 or 6, and therefore here the favorable events for your interested event, which is an even number, is equal to 3. Let us take one more example. Suppose you are tossing a coin 3 times and you are interested in getting 2 heads. If you make the sample space, you know this is the sample space, 8 outcomes, 8 events here, and you are interested in 2 heads. Which of these events are favorable to your event? 2 head is from head tail to tail head. Others are having either 1 head or no head or 3 head. So favorable events are here 3. Sometimes without creating the sample space you need to find out the favorable events. For example, here you are throwing 2 dice and you are interested in getting some of the numbers on 2 dice is less than 4. If you are throwing 2 dice and you are interested in some of the numbers, the minimum value will be when both of them are getting 1, 1, that is 2. And then it will be 3, 1 on the first dice, 2 on the second one, and 2 on the first dice and 1 on the second. And if you go 2, 2, that will be exceed 4 or more than 4. No. So in this case, your favorable events are if the total is less than 4, so either 1 1 corresponds to you, 1 1 is favorable to your event, 1 2 is favorable, and 2 1 is favorable, and therefore here the favorable events are 3. So the favorable events is the number of cases which are in favor to your event in which you are interested. For computing probability, we shall be requiring this number, and we shall be requiring the exhaustive number of cases of the experiment. Slide number 9. Mutually exclusive events. Events are said to be mutually exclusive if they cannot occur together. That is, if one is occurring, it restricts the occurrence of the other event. Then the two are known as or called or mutually exclusive events. For example, in tossing a coin, head and tail are mutually exclusive. Of course, both of them cannot occur together. If head occurs, then it will restrict the occurrence of the tail. Also, in throwing a dice, numbers 1, 2, 3 up to 6, they all are mutually exclusive to each other. That is, if any one will occur, it will restrict the occurrence of the others. Let us see this example. A dice is thrown and events A and B and C are defined as A is getting an even number, B is getting a number more than 4, and C getting a number less than 3. Now, 3 statements are given here, and you have to write true and false for these statements. First is event A and B are mutually exclusive. So let us see A and B. Getting an even number, that is either 2 or 4 or 6. B, getting a number more than 4, that is either 5 or 6. C, getting a number less than 3, that is either 1 or 2. Let us see the first statement, A and B. In A and B, 6 is common. That is, if 6 is occurring, it is also in favor of A and B. It means A and B are not mutually exclusive. This statement is false. Let us come to the second one, A and C. A and C, again 2 is common here, that is they are not mutually exclusive, and this statement is also false. Third statement, B and C are mutually exclusive. There is nothing common here, and that means this statement is true. The mutually exclusive events are the events which cannot occur together. Okay. Slide number 10. Equally likely events. Events of an experiment are said to be equally likely if there is no reason to expect one in preference to other. For example, for a fair coin, there is no reason to expect that H is more likely or tail is more likely. Both of them are equally likely if the coin is fair. Similarly, for a dice, if all sides are equal, that is, it is a perfect cube, then again 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, the numbers are all equally likely. But there may be situations where in an experiment the events are not equally likely. See the first figure. which is showing the two sides of a coin, but this coin is D-shaped. Here the head is like convex, the middle part is upside, and the tail is like concave, that is it's not in level. In this case, head and tail are not equally likely. Tail is more likely to occur than head. Similarly, in the cube, there are some broken parts there. It is not a perfect cube, and therefore here again the events 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or 6, they are not equally likely. Slide number 11. Independent events. The events are said to be independent if occurrence or non-occurrence of one does not affect the occurrence or non-occurrence of the other. That is, happening of one is not having any effect on the happening of the other, happening or non-happening of the other event. Okay, there is a question here. If you are tossing a coin, there are two events, head and tail. Are they independent? No, they are dependent, because if head occurs, it affects the occurrence of the tail, and tail will not happen, will not occur. Similarly, if tail appears, then it will restrict the occurrence of the head. So they are dependent on each other. In an experiment, one coin and one dice are tossed. Events A, B, and C are defined as: A shows that even number appears on the dice. B is the event that head appears in the coin. And C is the event that number 1 appears on the dice. Now, for the following statements, write true or false for them. Events A and B are independent. A is occurrence of even number, and B is occurrence of head on the coin. They are independent because occurrence of head on the coin will not influence or will not have any impact on the occurrence of the number on the dice. Yes, they are independent. Now, see, events A and C are independent. A is even number appearing on the dice, and C is number 1 appears on the dice. They are not independent, they are dependent. If one will occur, it will restrict the occurrence of the other, of the even number. So, no, they are not independent. What about the third, event B and C? B is a head on the coin and C is one number on the dice. Yes, they will not impact or effect of occurrence of the other. So these two are independent. Slide number 12. That was the terminology, and we are going to use those terms which we just defined in the definition which we shall be using for computing the probability, and we also call it mathematical or classical definition of probability. Okay, please have your attention here. If an experiment results in n exhaustive, that is the total possibilities are n, mutually exclusive. That is, all these n are mutually exclusive. That is, if one is occurring, the others are restricted. And equally likely cases. There are n in your experiment. Total possibilities are n. All n are mutually exclusive and equally likely. And you are interested in some event, and m out of n, m will be of course less than n, m of them are favorable to the happening of an event E. I will also take the example. You are interested in some event E, and from the sample space you found that m of the events are in favor of event E. Then probability of happening of event E, denoted by P or PE, capital PE, usually we put the capital PE, is given by the definition PE, number of cases favorable to the event, upon exhaustive number of cases, that is m by n. So this is the definition which you shall be using in computing the probability of any event. But remember, you can use this definition only when these conditions are fulfilled, where n is the exhaustive cases, m is the favorable cases, all n should be mutually exclusive, all n should be equally likely, and m is the favorable cases. You can get it. Also, probability of non-happening of E, that is probability of E complement. So in this case, the favorable will be the remaining part, m were favorable for E, and for E complement n minus m will be favorable, and that is the probability of E complement will be equal to n minus m upon n. These two gives you the result that if you add probability of n event plus probability of its complement, it is always equal to 1. We shall be using this relationship in computation sometimes if you are interested in getting the probability of E, but it is easy to compute the probability of E complement. So we will compute the probability of E complement and then subtract it from 1 to get the probability of E. An event is said to be a sure event if its probability equal to 1, and an event is said to be an impossible event if its probability is equal to 0. What does sure event means? Suppose you are throwing a dice and you are interested in that the number occurring on the dice is less than 7. It will be less than 7. It is a sure event. Whenever the event probability of the event is 1, it is known as sure event, or when it is called sure event means its probability is 1. And when suppose probability of E equal to 0, suppose the question is what is the probability that you will get a number 7 in throwing a dice? It's impossible, you cannot get 7, you will get either 1 or 2 or 3, 4, 5, 6, and therefore probability of E will be equal to 0. That is, for computing the probability of any event, two values are required: exhaustive number of cases, that is total cases, and number of cases favorable to the occurrence of your event. So we shall be interested in getting these two values, and then the ratio will give us the probability. The value of the probability will lie between 0 and 1. 1 is the sure event, 0 is the impossible event. Because probability is a proportion, it cannot exceed 1 and cannot be negative. Slide number 13. Now we are going to discuss numerical problems. A fair coin is tossed 3 times. Or same as 3 fair coins are tossed simultaneously or together. Find the probabilities of the following events: obtaining 2 heads, obtaining at least 2 heads, obtaining 1 tail. See, the simplest one. You can prepare the sample space. The exhaustive number of cases here, that is the total possibilities, is equal to 8. 8 will be in the denominator for all these probabilities. Probability of 2H. See how many are in favor of 2H. in the probability, 8 will be in the denominator. Okay, 2h are these three possibilities, three events are corresponding to your event of interest, and the probability will be 3 by 8. At least 2h, denominator will be 8. At least 2 means either 2h or 3 heads, or 2 heads or 3 heads. These 4 events are in favor of your event, and therefore the probability will be 4 by 8. Similarly, probability of 1 head, the denominator will be 8, the exhaustive cases, and 1 head is these 3 possibilities favorable, and therefore it will be 3 by 8. And this is how you can calculate the probability of any event if you know the exhaustive number of cases and the favorable number of cases. Slide number 14. It's a good question. I think it was part of the examination last year or maybe before that. A fair coin is tossed 6 times. What is the probability of getting at least 1 head? You need to know the favorable cases and exhaustive cases. Okay, let us solve it. Suppose your event is E. E means getting at least 1 head. So you want probability of E. This you want. So it's not possible to create the sample space here for 6 coins, but exhaustive number of events you can get. Now come to solution. At least 1, that is either 1 head or all 2 head or 3 or 4 or 5 or all 6 heads. This you will get exhaustive number of cases. 1 coin gives you 2 outcomes, 2 possibilities, and there are 6 points put in the power 6. That is, the exhaustive cases are 64. Now you want the favorable number of cases to E. You also know this, we have just discussed. Now you see the favorable cases of E complement. E complement will be what outcome? No head. When you are tossing some coins, either you will get no head or 1 head or 2 head or 3 head or 4 head or 5 head. Here there are 6 coins, 6 heads. So only one possibility is that when you are not getting a head, and that is all 6 tails. That is, favorable number of cases to E complement is equal to 1. And therefore probability of E complement is equal to what? The exhaustive cases will be in the denominator, favorable will be in the numerator. It will be 1 by 64. But this is probability of E complement. Probability of E, use this relationship, and you will get probability of E is equal to 1 minus 1 over 64, that is 63 over 64. Yes. Okay. Some more exercises. Slide number 15. Here you will have to do some more work. 2 fair dice are thrown simultaneously, and X and Y respectively give the numbers on first and second dice. That is, the first number in the bracket is X for the first dice, and the second number is for the second dice, that is Y. Compute the probabilities for the following events. Your event E1 is X plus Y is equal to 8. E2 is X plus Y is more than 6. E3 is X is more than Y. And E4 is X is minus Y equal to 2, means X equal to Y plus 2. Okay. We need exhaustive number of cases and favorable number of cases. One dice gives you 6, and therefore the total possibilities here will be 36. 6 square means 36. So exhaustive cases are 36. In computing the probability, the denominator will be 36. Now for favorable cases you have to count from here, and let us take the first question. X plus Y equal to 8. That is, it is given on the left bottom. Probability of E1 equal to what? total is equal to 8. You see here, this gives you the total 8, only these 6 plus 2, 5 plus 3. The others are either less than 8 or more than 8. So that means the favorable cases are 5, and therefore the probability is 5 by 36. Let us come to the second event, E2. X plus y is more than 6. It is easy to count here. That is probability of E2 equal to what? See the bottom, the green rectangle here. X plus y more than 6. That is when the total of the two dice is 7 or above. You can just draw a line here, and all the events below the line, they are favorable to E2, because the total of that is more than 6, means 7 or above. If you total them, it is 21, and the probability will be 21 by 36. Now come to the third question, third event. X is more than y, that is the first number is more than the second number in the sample space. Here again you can draw a line and you can get that. Here you see that if you draw the line here, all the numbers below this line are those in which x is more than y. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. If you add it, it is 15, and the probability will be 15 by 36. Then the fourth event, x minus y equal to 2. If you simplify it, it will be x equal to y plus 2. Means y is 2 less than x, because y plus 2 equal to x means x is 2 more than y, or y 2 less than x. Here again you can draw a line. You can see, not it, you will get very few number. The last probability, E4, that is x equal to y plus 2, means x is 2 more than y, and this is the favorable event. Otherwise this ratio is not like this. So there are only 4 which are in favor of this event, and it is 4 by 36. So this is how, if the sample space is given to you, you need only 2 values, exhaustive events and favorable events, and you can get the required probability. Actually there were 8 questions here, E1, E2 up to 8. Then I splitted this and I put the remaining 4 in the second slide. Slide number 16. This question is in continuation to the last question. 4 events E5 to E8 are given here. You know that the exhaustive cases are equal to 36. Now before solving the question, let me give you some idea about the given sample space. If you see the diagonal which is coming from 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4, that is from the left top to right bottom, this diagonal gives you when x and y are same. Above this diagonal, y is more than x, and below this diagonal, x is more than y, for all possible outcomes here. And diagonal give you that they are 1, 1, 2, 2, both dice are showing the same number. Okay, it will help you in solution here. Now take the first example. X minus y is less than 1. You can rearrange it for your convenience. That is, the difference is x minus y is less than 1. Less than 1 means x should be less than y. Okay, then but this, because it is given x minus y or x is less than y plus 1, then the diagonal will also be included favorable here. What I mean, here probability of E5 will be equal to, if you want to count the favorable cases, you need this one line. Above this line, all events are favorable to your event. X minus, if you add 1 to y, then the diagonal will also be favorable here. X will be less than 1 plus y, and the others are already x is less than y. That is, this number, if you count it, it is 21, and the probability will be 21 by 36. Second question is useful. I think it was also asked in the examination. E6. The x minus y is equal to 2. Means the difference is 2, and because the absolute value has been taken, either x is more than y with 2 units or x is less than y with 2 units. Both of these will be favorable to this event E6. So you have to see where the difference is 2. The difference 2 here x is 2 less than y, and here x is 2 less than 2 more than y. So in all these cases the difference will be equal to 2. You count the favorable are 4, and the probability will 8, 4 and 4, 8, and the probability is 8 by 36. Come to the event E7. X minus y is more than 0, absolute value. Either x is more than y or y is more than x, all will be favorable. Only the diagonal will not be included here. When x equal to y, you will get it 0, and that will not be more than 0. So only you have to take out the diagonal. The diagonal is having 6 events. All other are in favor of this E7. So take out the diagonal value 6, and therefore the probability here will be 30 by 36. The last question. X minus y is more than equal to 3. What does it mean? If you rearrange it, x is more than equal to y plus 3. That is, even if you add 3 in y, then x should be either equal or it should be more than that. X should be more than equal to y plus 3. You are rearranging to simplify it. That means if x equal to 4, then y1 is in favor. X equal to 5, then y1 is also in favor, y2 is also in favor. What I mean, if you see here, x is more than equal to y plus 3. This one. And here, all the events below this. If x is 4, y is 1, okay. And if x is more than 4, then again it is in favor of that. So here, x more than equal to y plus 3, you are having how many favorable? 6 favorable, and it will be 6 by 36. So if the sample space is given to you, you can compute the probabilities by counting the favorable cases and by knowing the exhaustive cases. Slide number 17. It is a very good question. The question is, here you have to create the sample, the exhaustive sample space yourself, and you have to count the exhaustive cases and favorable cases. But first you need to understand the question. The question is, what is the probability that a leap year will include 53 Fridays? What does leap year means? What is a leap year? Leap year is that year which has 29 days in February. Okay. Now, nothing is given here. You have to create all by yourself. It's a very good question. In a normal year, how many days are there? Number of days in normal means non-leap year. How to know whether a year is a leap year or not? You divide the year by 4. If you get no remainder, that is a leap year. This year was a leap year because 2020, if you divide by 4, you will get 0. It was a leap year, that's why you had 29 days in the February. If you are getting some remainder, if you are dividing the year by 4 and you are getting some value, not 0, it means that is a normal year, not non-leap year. And you know that the number of days in a normal year or a non-leap year is 365. Your question is in terms of number of Fridays. 365 days means if you convert it to weeks. How many weeks are in 1 year? In one normal year, if you divide it by 7, so you will get 52 complete weeks and 1 extra day. The question here is, this is in case of normal. In case of leap year is having one additional day, so 52 complete weeks plus 2 days. Now, your concern is about these 2 days. Forget everything. You have calculated that, you want to know whether if these 2 days include a Friday or not. If they include Friday, then there will be 53 Fridays in the leap year. Keeping in mind this one, you have to create your sample space. Okay. So exhaustive cases you want for the calculation, and you want the favorable cases. These two information you need to get the probability. Okay. Now create the sample space. What are the possible 2 extra days in a leap year? 52 complete weeks plus 2 extra days. You can write 2 extra days. Either it will be Sunday, Monday, or Monday. You may start from any day. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Saturday, Sunday, Sunday, Monday. So these are the 7 possibilities of 2 extra days. Either Sunday, Monday, or Monday, Tuesday, or Tuesday, Wednesday, or Wednesday, Thursday, or Thursday, Friday, or Friday, Saturday, or Saturday, Sunday. Okay. So this is your exhaustive cases. That is, your exhaustive cases are equal to 7. Okay. How many of these 7 are in favor of your question? 53 Fridays. That is, the Friday is one of the additional day here. The favorable cases here for 53 Fridays is either the additional days or extra days are Thursday, Friday, or Friday, Saturday. And therefore, the probability here, favorable are 2. The probability of 53 Fridays in a leap year is equal to 2 divided by 7. If the question would have been, suppose what is the probability that there will be 53 weekends? Weekends means there are 52 complete weeks, means there are 52 weekends in 1 year, and you want one more weekend in 1 year, that is, these 2 extra days are Friday, Saturday, and therefore only one is in favor, and in that case probability of that the leap year is having 53 weekends, it will be 1 by 7. Okay. Slide number 18. Basic rules of probability. So far we were discussing the calculation of simple probability, that is when the exhaustive cases were given to you and favorable cases were known to you, we were getting the ratios and getting the required probability. Now we are going to discuss some rules of probability. There are two rules here, or two formulas. The one is the addition rule. Addition rule of probability is, if there are two events A and B of an experiment, then probability of happening A or B or both, that is probability of A union B, it is equal to probability of A plus probability of B minus probability of A intersection B. This formula is known as addition law or addition rule of the probability. If you see here, this you know, if you see the figure here on the left bottom, so A union B is actually the shaded portion here, and because A intersection B is repeated, it is also in A and it's also in B, that's why it has been subtracted in the formula. It is probability of A, probability of B. When you are adding probability of A, probability of B, this common portion is coming twice and it has been subtracted from the probability of A plus probability of B. This is the known as addition law. We will now focus on A intersection B. Sometimes it is 0, sometimes it can be splitted. We know that if A and B are mutually exclusive, as given in the second figure here, this, then probability of A intersection B is equal to 0. And probability of A intersection B can be splitted, probability of as probability of A into probability of B, if A and B are independent. That is, if A and B are mutually exclusive, then this part will be 0 and we will be having the probability of A union B equal to sum of the two probabilities if they are mutually exclusive. This. And if they are independent, then probability of A union B will be equal to probability of A plus probability of B minus probability of A into probability of B. That is, you can split the A intersection B, the joint probability, as individual probabilities, and you can multiply that one. So this is the addition law or addition rule, and we shall be using in some examples. Okay. Slide number 19. There is one more rule in probability which we call multiplication rule. In the addition rule we added the probabilities, and in the multiplication rule or multiplication law we are multiplying it. For events A and B of an experiment, the joint probability of happening A and B, the probability of happening A and B, it is noted as probability of A intersection B, and it is given as probability of A intersection B equal to probability of A into probability of B given A, and you can rewrite it. In place of B you can put A. That is, the same formula can be written as, if you are separating probability of B, then the multiplication will be probability of A given B. That is, probability of A intersection B equal to probability of A into probability of B given A, or probability of A intersection B equal to probability of B into probability of A given B. This A given B is the conditional probability, which is very, very, very important in health sciences. That is, what is the probability that the patient will be cured given that the patient is diabetic. That is when some condition is given there. So now we are going to study the conditional probability, and that we shall be using in calculating the sensitivity, specificity, and other many things which are very useful in health sciences. So conditional probability is very, very important. But okay, you have been taught the addition law, addition theorem, law of addition in the last slide, and the law or the rule of the multiplication. Conditional probability. Conditional probability, the formula is obtained directly from the multiplication rule. The conditional probability of an event A, given B is the condition, given B, denoted by probability of A given B, it is written at, you can write it from the above formula. Probability of A given B equal to probability of A intersection B upon probability of B. What is this? It is the actually probability of A when the condition is given as B. Or we can also define, I will define that one, probability of A when B has already occurred. That is B is the condition, B has already occurred. Or probability of A within the reduced sample space B. What does it mean? This I will be taking an example. That is, if you want to get the conditional probability of A given B, means it is actually probability of A when the condition is B. Then in this case, sometimes if the sample space is given to us, we concentrate only on B, and within B we calculate the probability of A. The procedure is same, the exhaustive cases in the denominator, the favorable cases in the numerator. And either we calculate the conditional probability using the formula, or we calculate it directly from the table if the table is given to us. It's very interesting, and because sensitivity and specificity, which is very important in health sciences for the very useful, and we shall be discussing that in the following slide. So this conditional probability is very, very important. Slide number 20. Calculating conditional probability. Okay, here sample space is given to you. This information is given to you. We shall be using this table to calculate the conditional probability. Following table displays distribution of high and normal BP in 3 BMI groups of 100 persons. That is, there are total 100 individuals. They are classified according to BMI in 3 categories. A is the first category, first row. Their BMI is less than 25. B is the second category. The BMI lies between 25 and 28. And C is the third category, BMI more than 28. And according to the blood pressure, again there are 2 categories. Either blood pressure is normal, first column, N is denoting the normal BP, and second column is high BP, H, and the table gives you the information. Okay. Now the question is, one person is selected randomly from the above 100 persons. Find the following probabilities. Okay. Before coming to these probabilities, let us discuss few things. If I ask you what is the probability that that person is having BMI less than 25, then the exhaustive cases, one person you are choosing from 100, so there are 100 possibilities. Exhaustive cases are 100. And what is the probability that the person is having BMI less than 25? There are 60 persons having BMI less than 25, and therefore the probability that the probability of A means BMI is less than 25, it will be 60 by 100. Similarly, if the question is what is the probability that the person will be hypertensive, the denominator will be, the exhaustive cases are 100, and how many hypertensive are there? 30. So the probability that the chosen person is hypertensive, it will be 30 by 100. So single probabilities you can calculate from here. Okay. Also you can calculate probability of A union B, A union H and B intersection N, like that you can calculate that one. We shall be discussing in the some more examples. Now let us concentrate on the conditional probability. Probability of H given A. Okay. We have the formula for this one. We can calculate using the formula, or also we can calculate directly. The formula is probability of H intersection A upon probability of A. If we use the formula of the conditional probability, it is probability of H intersection A over probability of A. So we can calculate separately these two probabilities and we can come out with the result. The exhaustive cases here are 100, that you know. And probability of H intersection A, what is common in H and A? 12 is common. If you see in the column of H and in the row of A, this is common. H intersection A is 12. And therefore the probability of the numerator will be 12 by 100. What about the probability of A? Means what is the probability of A is your BMI less than 25? It will be, the favorable are 60 by 100, and therefore this probability will be equal to 12 by 100 over 60 by 100, that is equal to 12 by 60. Probability of H given A is equal to 12 by 60. Now let us come to A complement given H. We will again be discussing the probability which we have just taken here. A complement given H. What is A complement? A complement means B and C together. That is A which is not in A means B and C. If you write the formula, A complement intersection H upon probability of H. Now you see here A complement intersection H, what is that value? C in the column of H, and A complement to A complement intersection H, the favorable cases are 18. And what about H, probability of H? The favorable case for H is 30. This. And therefore the probability will be equal to 18 over 100 upon 30 over 100, that is equal to 18 over 30. 100 will cancel the 100. Similarly, N given C complement. The formula is N intersection C complement and upon probability of C complement. C complement means A and B. Okay. So what is common in N and C complement? The common is 48 and 16. And for probability of C complement, for C complement you will be adding the total of A and B, that is these two. And therefore the probability here will be 48 plus 16 means 64 upon 100 in the numerator, and 60 plus 25 means 85 upon 100 in the denominator. So 64 upon 100 for the numerator probability, and say 85 over 100 for the denominator probability, and you will get it this. Now you recall in the last slide I discussed that probability of A given B is the probability of A within B. That is, you can also get this probability directly without using the formula. Take the first one, probability of H given A, which we have calculated. What you do, you calculate the probability of H within A, that is only concentrate on the condition, that is only use the first line A. Within A, what is the probability of H? It is equal to 12 by 60. This is the same result. That is, without using the formula, you can get the conditional probability by concentrating on the condition and then computing the probability within the condition. Take the second one, probability of A complement over H. Now concentrate only H. H is given here, the total possibilities in H is 30, that is the denominator will be 30, and see the what is A complement in this 30, in this H. A complement is, take out 12, 9 plus 9, that is 18, and the probability is 18 by 30. That is, if the sample space or the table is given to you, remember we are going to solve the problems like this when the table will be given to us for computing the sensitivity and the specificity of a test. We are going to use the same procedure. So for quick result, you will be simply concentrating on the condition and you will be calculating the probability. No need for the formula if the table is given to you. See the third one, n given C complement. For C complement, you only concentrate on C complement. C complement means A and B. A and B means the total is 60 plus 25, 85. In 85, how many n are there? The n are 48 plus 16, that is 64, and therefore the probability is 64 upon 85. You can get the probability directly if the table is given to you, the conditional probability. Okay, we shall be taking some more examples. Slide number 21. A similar example has been taken here. Following table gives the distribution of BMI in 3 age groups. We have 3 age groups, less than 25, 25 to 50, more than 50, and they are named as A1, A2, A3. While computing probability, we shall be mentioning as A1, A2, A3. And you are given 3 BMI groups, less than 24, 24 to 22, 24 to 28, and more than 28. And they are mentioned as B1, B2, B3. Okay. And just as you did the last exercise, they are on the same pattern. The exhaustive number of cases here are 100. Same question. One person is selected randomly from the above 100 persons. Find the following probabilities. What is probability of A2? I shall not be solving all of these. I shall be solving only limited. Rest is for you. Answers are given here. Probability of A2. Exhaustive number is 100. A2s are 30. So it will be 30 by 100, and 30 is here. It will be 30 by 100. Okay. Now second question. I have taken the third question. B2 union A3. B2 union A3, it will be equal to, total B2 is this one, A3 is 20, and what is common them is 10, and you can 20 plus 30 minus 10 upon 100, you will get that. It will be the addition formula, probability of A plus probability of B minus probability of A intersection B. So A is the frequency for A is 20, for B is 30, that is 50, subtract the 10, and the probability will be equal to 40 by 100. Okay. B1 complement A2. B1 complement A2, B1 complement means B2 and B3 and common with A2. So see in B2 and B3 in the A2 column, this is the intersection of this one, add it, it is 20, and the exhaustive cases are 100, it will be 20 by 100. Okay. Now I am taking this one. Because you are given the table, the conditional probability you can solve directly without using the formula. Here A1 complement. A1 complement means A2 and A3. And A2 and A3 means A2 is 30, A3 is 20, means this. This is your denominator. And probability of B2 in these two, the B2 is 14 in A2, 10 here, so 14 plus 10, this upon 50, that is 24 upon 50 will be the probability. Okay, rest you can solve yourself. The results are given here. You can calculate yourself and you can check the results. Slide number 22. Now we reach the point for which we have done the practice so far. Our main objective in the conditional probability is to estimate or to calculate the sensitivity of a test and specificity of a test. What happens? What is sensitivity and what is specificity of a test? We call a test very sensitive if it catches the disease very quickly. That is, if the disease is there, the test shows positive. And we call a test very specific if the disease is not there, it shows it negative. Okay. What happens? Sometimes some new tests are developed and it is required to check their sensitivity and specificity. Suppose here, first let us discuss the definition of sensitivity and specificity. Sensitivity of a test is the probability or imkan or chance of getting positive result in the presence of disease. Means what is the probability that the test will show positive result when the disease is there. And specificity is the probability of getting negative result in the absence of disease. Means what is the probability that if the disease is not there, the test will show negative. We all want this to be very, very high, sensitivity and specificity both. Actually, say some new test has been developed and you want to test its sensitivity and specificity. What is done practically? Because the test is new, it is tested on some known disease cases and known non-disease cases. Suppose the test was applied on A plus C known disease cases, all they were diseased, and it was also applied on B, some known non-disease cases, that is B plus D are known non-disease cases, and the test was applied on them. The result of the test are given here. The test result showed positive, that is, it showed A plus B as positive and it showed C plus D as negative. If the test is 100% perfect, then in the table in place of A, all A plus C should be at A, that is, test should show all disease as positive and it should show all non-disease as negative, that is, in place of D you should have B plus D. But practically the situation is not like this. We don't get the 100% perfect sensitivity and specificity. The probability of the sensitivity is the probability of test showing positive when disease is there. You are familiar with this probability. We just solved it in the last section. So what will be this value? Probability T given D, and the specificity is probability test showing negative when disease is not there. You know the formula? Just get the probability of T within D, that is, within D means that exhaustive cases are A plus C. We just solved in the last exercise. It is equal to A over A plus C. That is, sensitivity can be obtained using this formula. Similarly, the specificity will be now probability of T complement when the disease is not there. So condition is D complement, that is absence of disease, and therefore the exhaustive cases are B plus D and the favorable are D, and it will be D over B plus D. So using this formula like this, you are going to estimate the sensitivity and specificity of a test. Now in the following 2-3 slides we are going to discuss this calculation of sensitivity and specificity, and we are going to discuss the problem which okay, we will discuss the problem, then I will discuss it there. Slide number 23. A scenario is given here and you are required to calculate to obtain sensitivity and specificity. I think this is the question which was in one of the examinations earlier. For your convenience, a table has been given here. The question is to estimate sensitivity and specificity of a screening test. 400 diseased and 700 normal individuals were chosen and the test was applied on them. That is 400 diseased, and that means the diseased are given here, 400 diseased, and you have to prepare the table first. 700 non-diseased, and the test was applied on them. Okay. Overall, the test shows 415 as positive. The total of this 400 and 700 will be 1100, and the test showed 415 as positive. That is, test positive is given to you as 415. Okay, this as positive. So you can get the test negative also by subtracting from 1100. This also includes 35 normal individuals, means among these positives, 35 were those who were non-diseased, but the test shows them positive. That is, you are given this 35 here. You can complete the table from here. 1100 minus 415, 685, and then 35 will give you 380. The A as 415 minus 25, then 400 minus 380, and 700 minus 635. You will get all these by subtraction. Now you have this, you will get the sensitivity and specificity of the test. Sensitivity is probability of T given D, and equal to what? D is 400 and favorable are 3 and T. It will be 380 by 400. We just did in the last slide. Similarly, specificity will be T complement, probability of T complement given D complement. D complement is 700. That is the denominator will be 700 and the numerator will be 665. It will be this. So this is how you can calculate sensitivity and specificity for a new test. Okay. Slide number 24. It is a very good question. Let us start it. A medical research team wishes to examine the efficiency of a screening test in verifying the presence of symptoms of a particular disease. The test was applied on 500 cases. Okay, 500 is given to you. It is, you can put the value here, 500 cases of disease, and also on 700 randomly selected persons, non-disease cases. This 700 is here. Okay. Not suffering from the disease. Out of the total 1200 is given to you. The screening test showed 530 person as positive. It showed positive as 530. Okay. This information is given to you. You can get the C plus D by subtraction. 1200 minus 530. You will get this one. Now you are not given the middle frequency. You are given calculate sensitivity of the test. It is given that specificity of the test was calculated as 0.80. So you will be using this to get the value of D, and then you will be completing the table and then calculate the sensitivity. So you are given a specificity as, you know the formula, this T complement given D complement, and it is given 0.80. So it is 0.80, which is equal to D over 700, B plus D 700, that is D over 700, and when you will solve it, put the value of D, you will get D equal to 560. Once you got D 560, here, rest you will complete the table. It will be 110, it will be 390, and B will be 140, and in the sensitivity formula substitute the value and you will get the result, sensitivity of the test. This is how, this is in the conditional probability. You practice 2 examples, and I hope that it is easier than that one. Slide number 25. The same example which you have solved before. Now the type of the questions are different. 2 fair dice are thrown simultaneously. Let x and y respectively give the numbers on the first and second dice. X is the first number and y is the second number. Events A, E1, E2, E3 are defined as, E1 is this, and for E1, look here, the exhaustive number of cases you know is 36. But if the conditional probability is there, then we may get the exhaustive within the condition, and then that may be different. So x plus y equal to 8. This is the same as we did before, and the favorable cases are this for this one. E2 x plus y is more than 6. More than 6 means this we are showing by green. The first event was red, and red I have taken the rectangle red here. And if x plus y more than 6, and more than 6 is these, this is the favorable events to E2. The diagonal, this diagonal included, and all other values on the lower side. Third event E3 is given x more than y, and we also did that one. X more than y means the favorable cases are within this triangle. In the first row 5 are more favorable, the second 4, 3, 2, 1, like this. Now you are having the sample space for all these 3 events. Let us come to the questions. Find probability of E1 union E2. E1 is red, E2 is green. All red are within the green, that is all E1 are within E2, that is E1 is the subset of E2, and therefore it will be equal to probability of E2. You count it, it is equal to 21 upon 36. Okay. Second question, probability of E1 intersection E3. E1 is red, E3 is yellow. What is common? Only 2 events are common, 6-2 and 5-3. It will be 2 by 36. Okay. Come to the third question, E2 union E3. E2 is green and the E3 is yellow. Just count how many of these. It is easy to count which are outside this, that is 5 and then 3 and then that is 9 are out of this, and therefore it will be 27, I'm sorry, 36 minus 9, 27 by 36. Or you can also use the formula. We are doing it directly. Probability of E2 given E3. Probability of E2, the condition is E3. So what you shall be doing, you shall be concentrating on E3 and finding the probability of E2 within E3, and therefore E3 is the yellow and yellow is the 15. The denominator here will be the 15. And how many E2 are there? E2 is green and E3 is yellow. Okay. Within E3, how many E2 are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 and 9. 9. It will be 9 by 15. Because within E3 are 15. the denominator will be 15 and the favorable cases will be 9. Now E2 given even. Your E1 is red and E2 is green. For this question, when I was teaching this in the class, I used to ask the correct answer, and the first correct answer was actually I was giving some reward, maybe 1 mark or half mark in the in-course assessment. E2 given even. E1 is the red, and if red is there, then what is the probability that E2 will be there when E1 has already occurred? It is a sure event. If E1 is there, E2 is a must, because E1 is a subset of E2 and it is a sure event, means the probability is equal to 1. Last question, E1 given E2. So E2 are the green, and the green are 21, and within 21 how many are the E1? They are 5, so it will be 5 by 21. So this is how, from the given sample space, either in the form of a table or in the form of sample space like this, you can calculate the probabilities whatever are required there. Okay, slide number 26. 2 MCQs are given here, and both of these MCQs were the part of the examination before last year or maybe before that. So just to give you the idea about the type of the question. First question, 3 fair dice are thrown simultaneously. It's not possible to prepare a sample space for this one. Probability that same number appears on the 3 dice is 1 by 6 cube, 1 by 6 square, 1 by 6 and 1 by 6 to the power 0. Which is the correct one? The exhaustive cases will be how many? 6 raised to the power 3, and that is equal to 6 cube. Okay. Favorable events. They all 3 dice showing the same number. How many will, either all are showing 1 1 1, or all showing 2 2 2, or all 3 3 3, 4 4 4, 5 5 5 and 6 6 6. That is, only 6 are favorable, and therefore the probability will be equal to 6 upon 6 cube, and that means it will be 1 over 6 square. That is, B is the correct answer. Okay. Second question. It is given that events A and B of an experiment are equally likely and independent. Equally likely means probability of A is equal to probability of B, and independent to each other. This information is given to you. Select the most appropriate option from the following. First, probability of A union B equal to probability of A plus probability of B. No, it is not correct, because this equation addition law is applicable when the 2 variables are mutually exclusive, and you are given they are independent, not mutually exclusive. So this is not correct. Probability of A equal to probability of B complement. You are given that probability of A, they are equally likely. Probability of A and probability of B are same, but that doesn't mean that B complement is also same as probability of A. So second is also not correct. Probability of A given B equal to probability of A intersection B. No, this is if you write the formula of probability of A given B, it will be probability of A intersection B upon probability of B. So in the C1, the upon probability of B is missing. Fourth, probability of A given B equal to probability of A. This is correct. Why it is correct? If you write the formula of probability of A given B, it will be probability of A intersection B upon probability of B, and because the events are independent, probability of A intersection B can be splitted as probability of A into probability of B, and probability of B in the numerator after splitting will cancel the probability of B of the denominator, and you will get it at probability of A. That is, D is correct. Slide number 27. It's also a very good question, you know, and I think you will do it easily. Here, let us read the question. 3 fair coins are tossed simultaneously. Events A, B, and C are defined as A, at least 2 heads, B, exactly 2 tails, and C, at least 1 tail. Okay. And the question is, obtain the following probability. That is, you have to calculate all 4 probabilities. And the experiment is tossing 3 coins. Okay. Better you prepare the sample space. You can prepare for 3 coins. And identify here A, B, and C. A, at least 2 heads, means either 2 head or 3 head, and therefore favorable to A are these 4 events. B, exactly 2 tails, and favorable to B are these 3 events. C is at least 1 tail is obtained, so that is 1 tail or 2 tail or 3 tail, only 0 tail, that is all 3 heads is not included, and therefore for C the favorable cases are the last 7. Okay, now calculate the probabilities. Probability C given B, that is, you need to calculate probability of C within B. But here you see that the B is having only 3 events here, so denominator will be 3 here, and when B is coming, then C is also there because B is a subset of C, so it will be a sure event. That is, denominator will be 3, and how many C's are here within B? There are 3 C's, and 3 it is a sure event. 3 by 3 means 1. Question number 2. A union C complement. A is red, C complement, C is the last 7 and C complement is the first one, means A union C complement is nothing but A, and its probability will be equal to 4 by 8. You can break the formula if probability of A plus probability of C complement minus probability of A intersection C complement, or you can do it directly from here. It will be 4 by 8. Question number 3. B, probability of B given C. C is 7. That is, the denominator will be here 7. And within this 7, how many B's are there? All 3 B's are here. So it will be 3 by 7. Fourth question. Probability A given B complement. It is again a conditional probability. So your denominator here will be B complement is how many? 5. B is 3. The favorable to B complement are 5. Within these 5, how many A's are here? Within these 5, B complement means how many? All 4 A's are here. It will be 4 by 5. So the probability topic is finished. We solved some problems. I hope you followed it. I will wait for your question, and maybe we may discuss your question in some when we are doing Google Meet, and I may reply your question there. All the best. Good luck.